Super awkward Funcast. You're listening to the Super Awkward Funcast. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening, and we're going to get right into it. This is Matthew Crofoot, our guest for today. Thank you guys for listening. I was just introducing you.
Oh, are we recording already?
Delightfully awkward, yes. Yeah, let's get right into it. So tell us a little bit about your habitual health coach situation, what you do.
Okay. So just give a little intro here. So my name is Matthew Crofoot. I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, a holistic health coach, and an empathy healer. I coach people who are stressed, tired, and frustrated to help create empowered diet, mindset, and lifestyle shifts so they can experience more peace, energy, and abundant health in their lives. I also help people overcome limiting beliefs, trauma, and fears by energetically reprogramming their subconscious. You can find out more information and testimonials on my website at habitualhealth.com.
And I'll link to that in the show notes as well.
Well,
so,
also, I want a brief disclaimer as well.
Sure.
I'm not a doctor. I cannot prescribe, treat, cure, or diagnose. Any information provided today is for educational or entertainment purposes only.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a medical concern, you should consult your healthcare provider, and definitely don't disregard any professional medical advice based on anything you hear today.
Yes, we are not doctors, so take everything with a grain of salt, just like you should in your daily life. So getting into it, I wanted to do an episode where I discussed the health aspect of the situation that we're in with the pandemic of COVID-19 and how to hopefully prevent or de-stress from the situation in ways that, would benefit you health-wise, like what kind of measures would be taken to keep yourself as healthy as possible during this period.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's a really great thing that everyone is looking for right now.
Yeah. So a lot of people talk about vitamin D being good for boosting your immune system and getting the right nutrition, and zinc I've heard mentioned as well. Is there anything you would like to discuss about that?
Yeah, actually, those are, as far as supplements go, those are probably two of the highest ones on my list of things I would recommend for overall immune support. So basically, vitamin D is modulates your immune system, and it's probably one of the most important things you can do. I just saw this study that just came out, and someone was basically sending it out saying there's a new vaccine that has this ridiculous success rate, and explained all the benefits of it. And then he said, you read this report, just replace the word vaccine with vitamin D. And the study is that vitamin D does all this stuff. We don't need this vaccine. We need adequate levels of vitamin D, which in our society, especially in America, we're very deficient in. Like almost everyone has very low levels of vitamin D, right?
Yeah.
The other big problem is we're being asked to stay at home.
Yes.
And people are sitting inside with their drapes closed and, watching Netflix and not getting out for a variety of reasons, fear of just getting out there, or just also trying to honor the recommendations from our officials. And unfortunately, that has the side effect of actually priming us for lower immunity and creating other situations that, like loneliness and lack of purpose and direction. All these things are lack of human connection.
Yeah.
They can get all a lot sicker, unfortunately. So, like the cure is almost worse than the what they're suggesting we do. So, not do.
Yeah, one of my issues with the whole masks and being fearful of going out in public and that sort of thing is these young children who have just been introduced to the world are going to grow up in a very different world than we did and will have significantly worse immune systems, mainly. So they will be more prone to disease if they don't get the vaccine, which is probably just going to solve everything, right? So that's what they say. A 95% effective vaccine for a 99% lethal disease. Or,
When you say 99% unlethal, you mean?
Oh, right. Sorry. No, 99% recovery rate. 1% lethal. I fucked that up. Sorry. So, I curse sometimes. But, anyway.
That's a whole other wormhole we'll get into, I'm sure. But to talk about, the kids, we've already seen this happening already with just the over-sterilization of our environments, the excessive hand washing,
yeah,
and, using antibiotic, hand sanitizer over the last decade or longer.
Which is so weird because it's not antiviral; it's antibacterial.
Yeah, I mean, this is even pre-COVID though, but the problem is that we're stripping away the microbiome, which is the bacteria that grows on our skin, which actually helps keep us healthy.
Yeah.
Humans are meant to dig in the dirt and have a little bit of challenge to our immune system, and that's actually what keeps it strong. And it's called hormesis. It's a hermetic stressor. So a mild stressor makes us stronger, whereas an overwhelming stressor will make us weaker. So what we've done is we've removed a lot of the mild stressors that were actually serving us, and we've replaced them with chronic long-term stressors that we find in modern life, and the combination is starting to become deadly, fortunately. And like you said, kids are growing up with very weak constitutions because of this overprotectiveness of parents. I remember I grew up in the 70s when, there wasn't seatbelts, there was, you're encouraged to lick lead paint walls for fun, and just whatever, pretty much parents were just overwhelmed and just trying to get by, and they weren't obsessed over child safety like they are nowadays. So
I ate dirt when I was a child. I was straight up in the dirt eating stuff from the ground. And you say that now, it's insane. Everybody ate dirt. It was a thing. And then you would play outside, I would play near a lake or whatever, swinging from a rope and stuff, dangerous stuff. And you get hurt and then you get back up and play some more. These kids don't even play anymore. They're trying to take away their experience. Their lived experience is going to be completely different than ours, than this generation before them. And with the school learning, they're going to do it virtually in so many places, and it's just that's not the same. And then you have the internet connection, which could come in and out, and you have the hacking situation that happened recently, where a lot of people, bad actors, will get into the stream and start messing things up for the class, and it's that's not what it's supposed to be. And that's another argument for homeschooling, in my opinion, because that's just the best way to get the most information, most accurate information. Is everything's at our fingertips anyway. It's book form and on the internet. I mean, if they don't change it, you can always go to archive.org, I guess, and the Wayback Machine. But you can self-educate at this point. That is possible. So what do we need? Interesting,
useful stuff as opposed to what they teach you in school.
Exactly, things that'll help you in your daily life, and isn't just propaganda.
Or just boring facts that aren't highly useful to we really need the manual of being human, and that kind of stuff isn't taught.
Yeah.
How to handle your emotions or express them positively is one thing that isn't taught, right? That is very useful. And so we repress our emotions throughout a lifetime, and it comes out sideways deep down the road, after 10, 20 years. So.
And I think that has an impact on the crime rate as well, which is very beneficial to the people in charge who make the money off of the crimes, off of the imprisonment of these children or these juveniles and everything. Cash for kids and all that.
Yeah, home learning via internet. You have the EMFs, the electromagnetic frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
That we're all exposed to the stuff, especially as adults. But now as kids, they had a lot of time when they weren't exposed to it at school, at least. And that's probably the only time they weren't, right? So now it's 24 day, and also things like we're seeing a lot of the younger generations don't have the same social skills that they probably should have, and now being separated by screens takes away a lot of the subtle cues and the energy that people use to communicate. So we're becoming even more disconnected from each other.
Yeah, and then I think that the mask does a lot of that too, and they're prepared for it. The people who are ushering in this biometric era, which is going to be happening very soon, is I look at a lot of what's going on my biometricupdate.com with all of the different countries getting all this technology, and they have a lot of facial recognition technology right now, which is going to bypass the face and just go straight into the retina. So that's how they're going to identify people. So they've been ready for this mask revolution, whatever this is, that people are very okay with masks all of a sudden. Not overnight, but it was surprisingly simple how people changed. It was surprising to me, even though I expected something to this effect. Because in the very beginning of the pandemic and everything, when it was here in California, but it wasn't as big a deal. It was the Diamond Princess, cruise ship, and everything happening there, and we knew that it was in California, but it wasn't like this fearful thing yet. Somebody in my office came down sick. We got sick multiple times. A lot of people got sick, over a short amount of time, one after the other, where it was what's going around right now? We all just thought it was the flu. And then I got sick later, but this person got sick, and they were told to wear a mask, just to cover their face and everything. And by the way, they probably should have, because they were sneezing in people's direction, coughing, and they probably gave it to me, to be honest, because they were next to me, and they were coughing. I don't know if they were coughing or sneezing, but they did it in my direction without covering their mouth, which I hate, which I hated before all of this. And even when I got sick, I would go outside, and I would go outside to sneeze or go outside to cough, because I knew that everybody was getting sick, and I was being very careful.
And it just seems even before COVID, that's just poor form, and everyone kind of knows it's sick but you're not come in, but the American work ethic and the fear of staying at home and not it's weird. It's we don't put an emphasis on actually performance and doing things. It's more if I'm in my desk, sitting there, everything's fine as long as I'm there for the allotted hours.
Yep.
As opposed to hey, I'll take the day off and meet my milestones that I've set for myself with my manager. That's not how it is. Definitely the sneezing is probably the highest vector way of catching COVID, because just so many particles at such high speed are released, and also the coughing. And then mixed with an indoor situation, especially being next to the person, it's almost guaranteed you're going to get whatever they got.
But I got it early. Thankfully, it was February, end of February. I had it for a couple of weeks. I couldn't speak for a few days. And I still had to work. I mean, I didn't have to work, but I went to work because, the first day I had a fever, so I went home early, way early. I got there and I didn't feel well, and then I went home. And then the next time I came back, and I just didn't have much of a voice, and I had to have one because I work in a customer service kind of thing where I deal with selling things. So I was selling tickets which won't be happening anytime soon, to the LA Phil. And then I had to just adjust to that, and it was just something that everybody was doing. Like the bosses, like it wasn't a culture where you're not allowed to be here sick. Like people were there sick. They were giving it to each other. So we just thought that it was the flu or whatever. It was not even a concern of anything else. But, we learned our lesson pretty quick. And then we found out quickly that it was a pandemic and it was going to really mess up our business. But at first, what's funny is that we had a meeting with my boss, my head boss, and my head boss in the meeting was like, you know what, this will blow over. This is nothing. Don't worry about it. They're going to be concerned, but don't worry about it. We're doing social distancing. So we did the social distancing thing, which was almost impossible in my office because there's a lot of human contact, and we didn't know that until then. That has to be done to get orders done and everything. So there was a whole process that we had to go through. And then people just kept getting really upset on the phone. They were like, why are you even open and all this stuff? It was really, really bad. And then eventually we stopped working. And then we were gonna come back the next day. I think we went home one day early through the main boss, like the boss of my boss. He came and he's like, shut it down. Or he not him, this other guy came who speaks for him, who's basically the supervisor of everything. So he came in and he's like, shut it down. We can't do this anymore. We're going to go home. But anyway, that was that. So getting into that, but like we had like all these specifications of what we were supposed to do. We couldn't do everything, so we shut it down and it wasn't working and people were scared on the phone. So then it was at that time where we're kind of gonna come in the next day, and they laid off a lot of people and didn't lay me off before this, and those people were laid off right before the what was it called, the shutdown, the stay at home thing. So we got in and then we got out because then Gavin Newsom came out and he was like, everything's shut down. That was like mid-March. And then I was like, well, I'm out of a job. And then as close as it kept getting closer and closer to November, and I was like, I haven't heard from my boss in a long time. I don't even know how many of my coworkers are alive right now because I've worked with a lot of elderly people in this business, and I don't know if my business will survive that I'm in, and fundraising, which I'm in. I'm hoping that comes back, and it hasn't happened remotely. Like, I'm one of those jobs where they just don't care. They're just like, fuck it, just put them on unemployment. And then they just don't do remote work. So puts us in a pickle. So some other people have been able to do things, but I've just kind of been unemployed for a long time and trying to figure out the future with the limited information that I have about it. Well, actually, it's not that limited. I have a lot of information about it, but it is very overwhelming because, like, day by day, it's getting more dystopic because this vaccine, and they're already talking about the travel, like the pass that you're going to have. And Clear was already ready for that because Clear has been in the airports for a long time, and that's a biometrically kind of new kind of technology that uses your, what does it use? Some kind of data from you, and you know, allows you to get on the plane or whatever. But you don't need to do it. They made it so that if you use this system, that you'll get perks, like you'll get ahead in line in the security or whatever. The fact that we even have such a ridiculous security process with the TSA, I mean, I can't imagine, because I never flew before, so I don't know what it was like pre 9/11, but it had to be better than it is now. And how many terrorists have been taken care of?
Right now, you just pay to get to the front of the line. It's like really easy.
Yeah.
It's like let's get people to pay for different tiers of
capitalism.
Creating a class system, but
Oh, no. I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah, that's the system we live in. It's very classist. We like to judge other countries, but our country is pretty stupid too when it comes to that. Like castes in India, we have our own caste system. It's a lot more ingrained in society that there are haves and have-nots. And then they're talking about like with the vaccine, who's going to get it first and all of that. I'm not getting it, period. Thank you very much. I've never gotten a flu shot, and I'm fine. Like, before this, I wasn't really sick that much, and this was the sickest I had been since I was a child, and I had the flu. So this was like the worst flu I've had, which was coronavirus, which was before it got mutated and all that stuff. I don't know how it would have been later, but... And then, you lose your taste and all that. Like, I didn't lose anything, thankfully. So, just my voice. And
so let's talk about the losing of the taste. So,
yes.
And we talked earlier about zinc, and often a major sign of zinc deficiency is actually loss of taste and loss of smell. So the people that are losing their taste, I think, are actually really zinc deficient to begin with. So zinc is one of the other really popular recommendations for boosting your immune system, and actually literally it has antiviral capabilities within the cell. So we're all zinc deficient as well in this country, and I definitely recommend that people consider supplementing zinc. One of the cool things you can do with zinc is I use a thing called the zinc taste test, where you get a certain kind of zinc mixed with water, and then you taste it, and if it tastes like absolutely horrible and you just want to spit it out, then your zinc is sufficient. You don't need any more right now. You're getting enough from your diet. But if it tastes like water or if it tastes sweet, then you do need more. And so that relies on the body's inherent intelligence to tell you, yes, I need this or I don't need this, as opposed to just randomly supplementing. So I think that zinc is definitely important. And the other thing is that one of the popular treatments in the hospitals is that hydrochloroquine mixed with zinc and a few other things. And what's interesting about it is I think zinc is doing the heavy lifting, but we have to throw in a pharmaceutical just to make it legit, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, zinc and vitamin D are not enough. These things have served us for eons. It's not enough. We need some sort of man-made pharmaceutical mixed in. What's interesting about that pharmaceutical is that it actually brings zinc into the cell to really high degrees, so it basically makes zinc much more absorbable. And I think that's why it has higher efficacy than maybe zinc by itself. So I think that's kind of interesting. I think that's why people are losing their taste as well, because they're just all the zinc is being sucked up to deal with the infection.
Well, since this has started, since the stay-at-home thing happened, I had decided to. I've used vitamins before, multivitamins, and I was like, well, I got to get back on that again, and I got to make sure that I can get a month's supply every month. And that's what I've done. I've gotten they're gummies because I can't really handle swallowing capsules. It's not a long story. I just can't. I've just never been able to. So I got these vegan gummies. I'm vegan, by the way. But I got these vegan gummies, and at first they were really good. And now the last batch that I bought are they're missing a coating, and you can tell. And it's like, whoa, that's a lot of cherries. Thank you. I'm not a cherry person, so I was really liking the gel thing that they had on top of it. But they didn't have it on this one, and I was like, well, they just messed up, I guess. But that was really tough to get used to. But it does have good zinc, and it has 120% D3 and all these other things. I don't know if vitamin D3 is any better than, or is as good as vitamin D regular, but that's what it has.
Supplement form is vitamin D3, and it's also good to pair it with vitamin K2. So good supplement will have that for extra absorption. I like to use a supplement called Quicksilver Nano Emulsified Vitamin D3/K2, and it's a pump that has this kind of slightly flavored. It's like a little liquid. Just squirt it under your tongue, and it absorbs. It uses liposomal technology, so it puts the particles in these little fat envelopes basically, and they get absorbed through the mucous membranes of your cheek or mouth, and then it goes right into the bloodstream. So you kind of avoid, like going through the stomach or through the digestive tract where a lot of people have poor absorption.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an alternative if you don't like to swallow capsules. And usually I think up to 5,000 IU is a reasonable, kind of mid-range dose. Anything over 10,000, I would go to your doctor and get a test first. A lot of times they'll do those for free, or for cheap.
Yeah.
Or they might even say you don't need it because everyone's deficient, so why should we bother?
Yeah.
It's like, well, then why only sell supplements then?
Oh dear.
Yeah. So anyway, those are two supplement things you can do. Let's talk about sunlight a little bit too. While we're
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of information about that as well. Like that really does make a difference, and UV light as well.
Yeah. Well, so one of the big things is just we actually manufacture our own D3. So getting out in the sun, getting that sun on your skin, especially on your torso if you can. This is one of the problems with the media is we've been scared to death of things that are actually good for us. So like being afraid of the sun, which we like co-evolved with for eons, is like, wow, really? We're supposed to be afraid of this? It's actually like essential for health, and it really charges and powers our body, helps create vitamin D, like I said, through the skin. It brightens your mood, and it just does all this amazing stuff. Like our planet is powered by it. All the food we grow is powered by it. So, you can be sensible about it. If you get a sunburn, then you've gotten too much sun. But going in, out in the morning up until it starts getting hot, that's a good time to be out. Getting that sun, and then when it's ridiculously hot, people usually would find shade to avoid it because it's just that they get sunburned or it's just too hot. And so just listen to your body. It'll tell you if you want the sun or not. You don't have to smear, all these potentially cancer-causing agents on your body that are supposed to block the sun but cause more problems, right? So, so I definitely think that that's a critical step. But also, a couple other things is that, like I said, we're sitting in these dark rooms at home and not going out in the world because we're afraid. We're missing that sun, and that can make people quite ill over time. And the other thing is having a really having a good circadian rhythm. So circadian rhythm is like how the 24-hour clock we have, right? So as the sun rises, it encourages our body to wake up. We start producing cortisol. The pineal gland notices the difference in light, and we start to wake up. And then as the day ends, we start producing more melatonin naturally. The sunlight goes down, and we kind of drift off into a relaxed state, and then eventually into sleep. So people that don't have a good working circadian rhythm have all kinds of problems, like all kinds of stress-based illnesses and stuff, and especially like shift workers and stuff. So with the COVID recommendations, it's almost encouraging like bad circadian rhythm habit people, and I think that's one of the simplest things you can do is just get back on a simple like sun-based 24-hour clock. Getting that early sunlight in your eyes is really good to tell your brain, hey, it's morning now. So.
And then also, I think what also scares me about the recommendations, and not necessarily in this country because I don't think it's as bad, but in other countries like South Australia, countries, I meant in that continent, in that section of the continent, and in Victoria before, they had restricted movement. So they would say 5 kilometers, I say kilometers, away. You can't go that far away from your house. You can't walk that far. So you have to stay within the parameters that we tell you to stay within. And that's where it gets to really unconstitutional, really illegal kind of, how much control are they going to take? And you can't give them control. They can only take it. That's how I've viewed it and how I put it. But that's...
Well, by compliance, people are giving it. They're giving away the control.
they're losing it. They're losing their control. That's how I view it. As soon as you let someone take power over you and tell you what to do, then you are losing control. You are losing control of your own destiny, of your own life. And what I've been doing very much as often as possible within the limits that I'm able to do it is I've been walking more than ever since this started. Like, that's when I got out there and I exercised even more than I did before, because I knew I wasn't going to be going on the bus anywhere and walking around as much, and I wouldn't have things to do, so I had to make things to do. So I would have to like walk around the neighborhood, walk through Hollywood, West Hollywood, everywhere, and then see people and be connecting with people like on a daily basis, or as much as I could on a daily basis. But like when we had the heat waves, it was just not going to happen. But I'm not an idiot. But you know, when the weather permits me to, I do go out and try to get as much exercise out there as possible, and to see these people and to show them that you shouldn't have to be afraid all the time. Like, I don't ever wear a mask. I don't say don't wear a mask. I just say we shouldn't be told what to do. That's all. It's very simple. It's not political. It's just having the sovereignty over your own existence. Like, that's something that we should have as human beings. If there's such a thing as democracy, then we should be able to vote whether we want to give our powers away or not. But we aren't, because there isn't.
We shouldn't even have to vote. Like, we shouldn't have to. We have a divided country. Like, why should it be a vote? It should be each person should have the individual sovereignty that you're talking about. So,
I agree. Yes.
Otherwise, everyone would have to agree with the vote. One thing I like that you said is modeling behavior for people. I think that's really powerful right now. Like, when all this hit, I was really stressed for the first 2 or 3 days, just like everyone. But a lot of people just were really stressed beyond that. I had this deep calm about me. I'm like, wow, I'm in a very unique opportunity to model, calm and the peace, and how to like have perspective on this, and to, see what we can figure out, and let things unfold, and kind of hold that space for people. I think that was hopefully useful to some people, friends, family, and community. And I'm sure you've affected some people as well. Maybe not positively, but I just wanted to mention that because I think that's powerful, and we all have that power by making ourselves better and by showing up in the world in the best possible way. We have that power to not only give other people permission to do that too, and then also to inspire and show them what's possible. So that's really cool. I also want to mention, I liked how you brought up the exercise. So let's move on to our next health topic with that. So moving the body is really important, and walking is just so simple. And really, like, if you do anything, that's probably what you should do, right? Just a simple walk. It gets you out of the house. It gets you that sunlight. Gets you oxygenation, unless you're just obsessed with the mask wearing. So you don't wear a mask anywhere ever, or
only the one time to get the change, and I felt very uncomfortable the whole time, and I was just ready to go home. But I did stop by the store just because I had the mask, the covering on. Which again, right. The other thing is like, yes, N95 masks. Yes, I get that. Like, that definitely helps. But some of these other things, like, if this was real, if this was a real recommendation, like based on science, then a cloth mask would not do the trick, because it doesn't do the trick against the N95 respirator.
I think it does something. I think what does the most at the beginning was give people the illusion, much like on an airplane, the illusion of control, or that I can do something.
And that's what Fauci said.
And that's why so many people are getting angry, because they're like, look, this is the only thing we can do, and they don't realize that that's why they're getting angry. And then they're also getting angry that it's like, so you're just, it's kind of like by not wearing a mask, they assume it's malicious. And it's like, well, no, it's not malicious. It's actually, like you said, protective of our freedoms and our right to choose. So
it's also the product of propaganda. That's how I view these people. I try to reason with it as if like they've been exposed to all this information that has warped their thinking in such a way, or their critical thinking is not working right now. They've been conditioned. A lot of people have been conditioned by social media to be a lot more critical of other people and blaming everybody else for everything else, and canceling people. Like they've already set that up. This system where you look at someone and you judge them immediately, and then you're done with them. That's already been set up. So that is the blueprint for what they're going to do now, where they're going to have the anti-vax thing come back in and people being chastised for that and ostracized by the community. And a more divide and conquer, basically. That's all it ever comes down to, is just get everybody riled up and mad at each other so they don't notice the big pharmas making crazy dividends, and so is Amazon and Apple and all these other companies that are embracing the new biometric era. So
back to the masks briefly. I do think they do have some efficacy. Like they do help a bit, but I agree that they're not the magic bullet that people think they are. It's kind of naive to think they don't do anything. They're obviously catching a lot of the particles that leave the mouth. And supposedly it's better if you are sick to have one on. So it's more about like preventing the spread, but you're obviously inhaling stuff. But I think outdoors, if you're wearing a mask and you go up and get a takeout coffee or something, and you're standing around people 5 or 6 feet away, it's just kind of like you got 3 layers of extra protection. You're outside, you got the distance, and you got the masks, and then you also feel like, hey, I'm doing my part, which, against an invisible enemy that, I know there's the dark side to all this, but that's a positive way to look at it, is that, hey, we're like doing our best to do what we can to try and protect the most vulnerable amongst us while we kind of sort this whole thing out. And then, people are naturally getting bored with it, right? And they're like saying, well, screw it, I want to see my friends, I want to go out and do things. So over the last 3-4 months, we started to see people just kind of get more relaxed with everything. And I think that's, if we can rely on the American consumer to be, to want to do things for selfish reasons, I think that's a really good retaliation to any control being passed down right on us, because people are going to rebel if they are forced too long to not get what they want, right?
Yes, and that's just inherent. Like, they knew that was going to happen. They prepared for that. And then there's the whole situation where you can't even, criticize these people because of the government. Like, there are government officials that are doing the same thing, that are bypassing their own rules that they set in place, like Gavin Newsom recently. So, that's going to present a problem and get people riled up against those people, and then you can in turn just schedule a curfew for the entire state and be like, well, I'm doing my part now. Like, I made a mistake, and now here I'm gonna punish everybody else, all these other businesses and everything. And at the same time, he had the California Medical Association lobbyists at this dinner at French Laundry on November 6th. And the fact that they were there and they weren't wearing masks, and he was telling us before this, wear a mask in between bites, which was insane. Nobody else has said anything like that, but he said that in his guidelines and got so much backlash for it. But that's the kind of thing, you see, that kind of arrogance and that kind of defiance of what you're supposed to be doing, and you just get more angry. It's going to get people more angry. And then we had these protests yesterday with a lot of Trump supporters and I'm sure some other people were mixed in there, but they just mainly the media was focusing on the Trump supporters in Huntington Beach, where they had the curfew breaker kind of rally thing, which started at 10:01 p.m. because our curfew is 10 to 5 a.m. And we had curfews before in LA for the riots that were happening.
Yeah, but most people ignored those. So.
People do ignore them, and then the LA...
Well, I should say, the law-abiding people stayed home, but the people that don't care ignored them.
Yeah, and then...
And that's one of the curfews was just people that don't want to mix it up. It's like it's almost like the purge out there. Right? It wasn't that bad, but... I live in Hollywood too, and on Sunset, that whole plaza got completely looted. And, taken down. It did look like the purge for a little bit there. I was kind of like surrounded on all sides by thousands and thousands of protesters with like tanks and military people and all this stuff. And I'm a very empathic person, so like the vibe and the energy of that was like, whoa, it's very intense.
But that's a good thing to bring up, because those protests were promoted by the media, and these protests that are about everyone, like being able to do whatever the hell they want within reason, and not being taught down to by someone who's not following their own rules, that one's being portrayed as something evil. Like they're killing your grandmother by going out in these groups of crowds, and they're gonna get COVID and everything. But they don't say that about the ones. They don't say that about the celebration of the the election or the selection of Biden by the mainstream media, which, by the way, the election results have not been certified.
Yeah,
not nationwide.
So I'm not up on this curfew in Huntington Beach. So what's tell me the quick 2-sentence reason for that?
The thing there is like that county, just like many other counties, the sheriffs are not enforcing this curfew at all. And I went out last night in Hollywood at 10:30 to Hollywood and Highland. I always say Highland. But I posted up some information about Gavin Newsom, and as a silent protest, because I don't like to protest with other people. I think that ruins it. I think it should be an individual act at this point. I've just seen so many protests get co-opted that I'm like, nah, not gonna do that again. And I've been in them before, but they haven't gotten co-opted, thankfully, the ones that I was in. But I don't agree with every single thing those people are talking about. So it just gets a little awkward when they're marching and they're saying things, and I'm like, well, I don't think democracy actually exists, so I don't know if we can have one. This is what democracy looks like. No, it doesn't, because it doesn't exist. But okay.
You tell me specifically what the curfew is, because I don't watch the news. So
it's 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. So it's like late evening to early morning.
And what was the purpose of suggesting having this?
Apparently, COVID just dies at a certain time, so we have to be aware of it in the evening. That's the joke, I guess. But
so the point is to kind of keep people from
to slow the spread, because they have so many cases, because they're looking at the cases now. And then we don't even know what happened with the flu, because there was one official, I don't even know if they were from WHO or wherever, but they said that the flu was basically gone. It disappeared. And I'm like, that can't be.
Now everyone's getting reclassified. That's pretty obvious. And in fact, there's some good charts out there showing that people that are dying, all other causes of death have gone way down to make up for that. It's the people that were ready to die are dying from COVID or with COVID, as opposed to from the flu or from other, aging-related things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, definitely agree with that. So yeah, I think this whole, it seems stupid to have a curfew, because how many people are going out and what are they doing after 10 o'clock? Because there's nothing to really do. There's no nightclubs, there's no concerts, there's no bars, there's no restaurants. So a handful of people might be out doing whatever, and they're still going to do that anyway. The kind of people out at that time of night are going to do it anyways, right?
I just saw a bunch of homeless people just chilling. That's mainly who was enjoying themselves. Making a ruckus.
Doesn't affect me. Back to that circadian rhythm thing. I like to get to bed early and get up, with the sunrise. But I understand younger people like to get out there and get kind of stir crazy. But there's not a lot to do. So
my issue with it was mainly about the businesses. These small businesses, these businesses around town are already in danger of being disappearing, basically. So they've just opened up, and now all these restrictions are coming in again, and the outdoor dining and whatnot, and now they're gonna have to get back to that, get back to the rhythm of what they were doing before. And now they have delivery still after 10, it doesn't make sense. Because if the place is open, okay, so they're still working, but nobody can go to the restaurant.
And you can't come home from the restaurant without breaking curfew. Yeah, it's just I see what they're trying to do, and the numbers have been ridiculous, spikes everywhere. So,
which was after all the celebrations about the election situation. So, I mean, they don't really care when it happens. They care afterwards. It's funny, like that as things are happening, as people are gathering, it doesn't really matter if it's for your side. It just seems so biased to me, the whole situation. And these politicians, they don't care. He clearly doesn't care. Gavin Newsom, he's hanging out. Oh, and those guys who went to Maui, these people who went to Maui to talk to like SoCal Gas and like all these other guys, PG&E people, like they hung out together. I think G20's coming up, the summit. I don't know if they're having it virtually or not. I haven't heard anything. But I wouldn't be surprised if they just met with a bunch of people, including Boris Johnson, for frick's sake, like, who just had another, like, situation where people were, like, getting COVID around him or something, and he was like, oh, I'm going to be in quarantine. So, like, it just seems like nobody's taking it. Like, if they're not taking it seriously, how can we as a society, how can we as the people who are being ruled over them take it seriously? And
right. Well, that's the essential question of leadership, and so it's a sign of a bad leader to not lead through action. But realistically, though, the government has put a plan in place in California, and they're trying to follow that plan. If you look at the numbers have spiked up into like 30, 40, 50 cases per 100,000, and we're in the critical level. The ICUs are starting to rise, and so the plan is that we need to put additional restrictions until those numbers come down. The curfew seems like the dumbest thing to possibly add, because people aren't just, like you said, a handful of people going out at night to do nothing isn't how people are getting COVID.
No.
It's like these gatherings. So I think a better thing to talk about says this is, some of these local, like Chicago mayors, like canceling Thanksgiving and a lot of
oh my gosh, yes. Oh.
So it's like you can't cancel Thanksgiving because it's an idea, and it's something people are going to do anyways, and they need that hope right at this time of year. So people are not going to really honor it. They might have smaller gatherings, which I think is sensible. I mean, if you can keep it under 6 people, that's probably good, especially people you already see regularly, right? Like if everyone that's in your household, you're already exposed to them, right? And maybe if you bring over another household or something, I think that's reasonable. I think that should be a personal choice. Having 20, 30 people in a small enclosed space, indoors for hours during the spike is not, it's not wise, right?
Mm-hmm.
So each person has to make that decision for themselves.
And it should be.
I don't think the government can cancel Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's un-American.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. By the way, off topic a little bit, but like that, did you see that tree at the Rockefeller Center? Like, could that have been the most, like, ridiculous waste of money, like, ever? Because it's not even a real tree. Like, it looks like it's about to die. And an owl came out of it, apparently. And they just rolled it out, and it fell apart. And I think it's just supposed to be a symbol, obviously, of this year, like, falling apart or whatever. I'm not stupid. I could have figured that out without the Twitter information about it. But, like, just that whole thing made no sense to me, because why even have one? Honestly, why would you go kill a tree and then put it here? For what? Like, what is anyone getting out of this?
Well,
who asked for this?
Tradition, right? Isn't it?
Huh? It's a tradition. But it's never looked so shit. It's never looked so awful before. And that's for a reason. They did that on purpose. They wanted the ugliest tree ever to represent this country.
I would disagree with you there. First of all, we have to define who they are. And second of all, like, what's the benefit of
the officials?
And also, you can never really prove that. So it's kind of conjecture. But having the symbol of Christmas this time of year does give people hope. And actually, it would seem like that would be better to keep the masses placid by giving them their holidays to distract them and spend money, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think they will do like a virtual Christmas situation. I think that's what they're going to do, is just make everything as virtual as possible. Because, like,
Right.
I literally saw, like, an ad for one of these, I don't know what the place was, but sports, some kind of store or whatever, with a Santa, and the Santa's like behind a plexiglass or some shit. And I'm like, that's hilarious. Hey, at least that might help with the molestation that might occur. I'm just saying, like, you know, those Santas can look really creepy sometimes when they're touching these children. So, I mean, maybe they should get that for the Boy Scouts. Maybe if they had that for the Boy Scouts, then we wouldn't be in this situation with them and all of these cases of sexual assault. And also the Catholic Church, we could have, like, really cut down on some of those abuses. But I'm just putting it out there. Like, that would have been nice before.
That's in jest, obviously, but having a physical barrier is kind of funny because it really brings to light that there's a deep sickness underneath that is not dealt with in our society emotionally and mentally and with trauma. And whoever these molesters are, they have deep issues that we're not dealt with, growing up, and they didn't get the right support or the right education, and so it comes out in these weird ways. So it's a shame, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that a lot of it is conditioning as well, and like the media puts out certain messages in film and television that certain things are okay and certain things aren't. And there's a lot of double standards as well, especially with like boys being abused versus girls being abused and that sort of thing. So it's interesting. I've been talking about that on the podcast for a while, the pedophilia problem that has gotten really, really insane the last couple of years. But, it's good that it's being talked about now. Like, I think the more we talk about these taboo subjects, the better that we'll be as a society. The more healthier we will be, and people will feel more inclined to be open about what they experience before they get too deep into their sickness. So I think it could really benefit society if we were able to talk about these things and have more therapy options for people who experience this, and had some kind of empathetic view of these people. Like, because a lot of the time, like especially on Twitter and stuff, on social media, then people will immediately judge people who have done really horrible things. And yes, they've done horrible things, but that's not all that they are. And people are capable of fixing those parts of themselves. I truly believe that. It may take a very long time, but there's also there's a starting point where they think things are okay, and that's based on possibly a cycle of abuse that has happened in their life.
Right.
They've experienced something and they think they have to do it to someone else, and then hurt people basically. That's what it comes down to. So
exactly.
I think there should be more therapy options for these people suffering from that.
Right. Well, this is a good lead-in to talk about. I mentioned that I do energy healing, and one of the things I do is called subconscious empowerment work, and I work with people and energetically shift their subconscious beliefs and traumas and stuck emotions and energies that are basically stuck in their body's energy field, which is what your subconscious is. It's amazing the results you can have with this kind of stuff. So a lot of us grow up with childhood attachment trauma. We grow up, thinking we're worthless, or like we are doing things wrong because of the way our parents, dealt with us, or maybe one of them did. Like, I have a narcissistic parent that, my relationship with my dad, and that definitely changed the way I, approached life for a long time. So, anyways, using this kind of work, you can clear a lot of these negative beliefs, clear these traumas, and just basically free yourself. And it's really quick and painless. And I've had sessions with people for like an hour, and their whole lives have like radically changed. Just everything starts going their way. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 sessions, or a little bit longer, but you have to work through what your backlog is, so to speak. But it's pretty amazing. I think that would be a great therapeutic option for some of these things, PTSD for one, and also people that have phobias, fears, and just general antisocial things that they're obviously acting out some sort of behavioral pattern, like you said, from earlier in life, and they need to drop that pattern somehow, and come up with a healthy pattern. And society is not just going to do that for them because it's polluted with the very thing that probably caused it, right?
Yes, exactly.
So anyways, I wanted to mention that because I think it's a powerful, useful adjunct to all kinds of things, including traditional psychotherapy. I actually am not a fan of psychotherapy because, you've heard the law of attraction, right? It's kind of like you get what you focus on. If all you do is bitch about your problems for an hour, you just recreate those problems each week, right?
Yeah.
And it's nice to vent and kind of get it off your chest, but it's really not helping you grow or anything. Every once in a while, a person will have they'll bring their consciousness to something they're unwilling to see before, and that can be healing. But short of that, if you just replay the muck each week, right, like the film highlights of all the worst stuff in your life, that's just going to recreate that and make you feel worse and worse and worse, And I think that's why we see a lot of people go to therapy for decades and they're still going. So,
yeah.
Cognitive behavioral therapy, I think, is better because it focuses on changing your thought patterns, and that's one of the first things you want to do. So that's kind of a top-down approach where you change your conscious thoughts to change your emotions and your actions, as opposed to the subconscious work I do, which is why not just change the 95% below the surface, and then you don't have to do so much work through the conscious, which is really hard. It's not a very good lever, right? It's such a small little lever to move all the stuff that's been accumulated through a lifetime. So.
Yeah, well, I do therapy myself, but most of the time, my therapist is so weird that I end up just talking about politics and all the shit that's going on. And I get to vent about the biometric shit, and then Bill Gates and all of that. I just get to vent, which is nice, but it's also I sometimes talk about my father, my relationship, and my childhood. I got into that a little bit, but it was more just sharing stories than oh, poor pitiful me, this happened to me, then it made me like this. I don't do all of that. And I think I've gotten a lot healthier as I changed my point of view and my perspective of things. So when I used to be very judgmental and very opinionated, and if someone didn't share my opinion, I'd be like, well, they're trash or whatever. So I've gone the opposite direction from social media, where they've gone to everybody's trash from being empathetic in the very beginning. So I've learned to be more empathetic in my time, in the last few years that I've been working on myself by myself a lot of the time. But I had a very special event where I was hit by an Escalade in 2014 while on foot, and then on my head, and then in the hospital. And that was a very traumatic experience for me that changed my way of dealing with people. And I started to become more empathetic after that. But after a rough time of depression, which would set in every once in a while, but I was able to look at things differently. And it also helped to be around people who had that kind of mindset where they wouldn't judge right off the bat and they would challenge me. And unfortunately, I've lost that friend who was that kind of anchor for me, but I have learned so much from that experience that I've carried it on into my conversations, even on Twitter and everything. When people want to argue with me or whatever, I'm just your points are valid and I love you and you're great. And, I don't know what you want from this conversation, but I'm not going to give it to you because certain people will be insulting and everything just to get a reaction out of you. And that's always been the case.
Yeah.
But if you don't give them that and you give them support and love in return, they don't know what to do because they aren't used to that response. So I like to make the world a better place, one person at a time.
Until you de-energizes the conversation because they want the drama, and the fighting. And I've done therapy too, so I mean, definitely no judgment on my part. But I'm just saying that there's better tools out there for some of this stuff. Depends what you're trying to deal with.
Yeah, especially if you have to pay for it. I wouldn't pay for therapy. Like, it's free for me because of Medi-Cal. But, like, if I didn't have to pay for it, I wouldn't pay this dude for what I deal with. For one, like, I mentioned the Me Too thing, like, happened, and I mentioned an experience that I had, and he kind of, like, laughed it off. And I was like, I don't think that's a good idea to do that to your patient, but okay.
Yeah, I got my therapist to get really angry at me once about something. I got her totally triggered over something else. I thought it was kind of like watching a slow motion train wreck. I was like, well, wow, this is a real person too, that has real issues.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know so much about this guy, and he gets so excited over everything bad that happens to Trump. He's like, "Oh my gosh, he's going down now." I'm like, "Sorry, no, he's not going to get impeached." And I just feel so bad that I had to be like the bearer of bad news. Like every time he was like, I watched the CNN or whatever, and he's going down or whatever. And I'm like, "No, he's fine. It's going to be nothing's going to happen." And then it disappeared, the whole thing. And I was like, well, sorry. Like, that's how it is. So now the whole thing with the new election chaos crap that's going on is, every time I'm just like, it's not that simple. Don't get excited because you're going to be disappointed later. Believe me, because I've been checking out what's going on for a while. Since maybe 2012, I've been kind of aware of things. More so than usual in the political realm, since that one president that I voted for just really ruined everything and for everybody else, and then introduced us to this new one. But anyway, like, it's just you get not surprised by things that are happening after a while when you read up on everything that's happening. You get too much information, and then you're like, well, anything can happen now. Like, giant meteor is not out of the question at this point. There's been like several meteorites in the last few days that have been all over the place in the U.S., and I'm like, come here, baby, come here. Well, Washington, but not here. But go to Washington, take care of business, and we'll be on the right track. Because I think the main issue is term limits. And then Giant Meteor I named him George. Giant Meteor can help with that. They can help destroy the term limits.
You're talking about
Congress. Or destroy Congress, yeah. They can destroy Congress for us and take care of that problem.
Yeah.
They'll give them the term limit.
The meteor did hit. That might do that. So I have a question for you. So the deeper you go into some of these rabbit holes and the more you find out, do you find that's making you any happier, or do you find it's actionable in any way, or is it just making you miserable?
I don't think it makes me miserable to know, because I have so much knowledge. Like, if I had a little bit of knowledge at a time, but I kind of overwhelm myself with so much knowledge that it's sort of like I'm desensitized to a lot of it. And especially when I think of like the people behind the scenes and what their motives might be, and I try to get in their heads and everything, and I see that they really think that there are a lot of people who are really thinking, like, for instance, Bill Gates thinks he's helping the world, thinks he's saving everybody. Like, nobody thinks they're the villain. That's how I'm trying to look at it. Everybody is the main character and the lead in their own story, and they're the hero. And that is how you view things. You can't view things as black and white. Like, this person's evil, this person's not. Like, George Soros has good qualities. Everybody has good qualities. But it's just what you do with the bad qualities, and how you reason with that. And it's just interesting to see. I find it very interesting, and I think that's also fascinating because of the media that I've been exposed to, which shows these anti-hero characters. Like, for example, Breaking Bad, where people do horrible things, but they have good reasons for it, or they can reason with themselves about, or justify it in so many ways. And it's all about the human condition, ultimately. That's what everything boils down to. We're all human, and we all have different, like, egos and ids and all of that. So it's dealing with that and your own past and whatever prejudices you have or whatever. And I just look at it, I'm very much looking at it from a human perspective. Everything that I look at, I'm seeing, like, what are they doing and why are they doing it? And how can I avoid this happening? Because I really don't want to get a quantum dot tattoo of a vaccine. I don't want that, and I don't want, like, a microchip and everything. Like, I don't want us to get to that point where we have accepted so much that we'll accept anything as a society, and if you don't, you'll be banished or whatever, and we'll turn into We or 1984 or whatever dystopic novel you want to say, Brave New World. But, like, that's what I don't want. But I'm looking at history as well, and cycles that go throughout history of these things happening. Like, we've seen so many of these pandemics before. 2009 swine flu, and then the 70s one. And I'm just getting more educated about that as well as things move on. And the 1918 thing, the flu, and seeing that things are being done now that were being done then. It's not much different. It's just a different era, but it's going to change later. And you know what? If I have to adjust to it, I will. Luckily, I was able to, because I got hit by a car again in January. I got a settlement right before things really shut down. And I was very scared that I wasn't going to get it before the stay-at-home thing was in effect. But I was able to get it right before, and I was like, phew, before they left their office for good. And and so I was very excited about that, and I got enough money to live on for the amount of time that I've been out of work. And then I also was saving money because I knew that there was going to be an economic crash, because I watch a lot of different things, and they know what's going on and the markets and stuff. Like, I've been aware of what was going on, so I was prepared to do that. And I have like over $2,500 in cash from, when my roommate would give me cash for rent, I would just save it. And so it's like hidden. And so that's my savings. And then I have savings in my account as well. I have like a money market account, $10,000 worth. So I have all these safety nets that luckily I don't have to rely on the government for their UBI initiative and the stimulus and all of that stuff, which is all just, corporate giveaways. And, disguised as help for the poor middle class who only get a smidgen of the $1 trillion that they give. But I've made myself able to withstand, is that the right word? Whatever. Sustain myself for the time being. But there is going to be a point where I'm going to be like, I have to go to work again somehow, and I'm going to have to find a new career or whatever. And I'm putting that off as long as possible and doing as much research as possible that I can do in 24 hours every day, and not letting it get to me too much. Because basically when I'm out and about and I'm not wearing a mask or whatever, nobody's ever said anything to me about it. Nobody's ever made any remark. All that anyone can do is just berate you on social media. Like, they don't really do that in real life. That's not how people act. They're more silent.
I think that when you're out and about, you're on the sidewalk walking, and that's probably like, people can wear their mask if they want. But if you try to go into a grocery store, they might...
Oh, hell no. I don't even bother, because, like, once you do that, then you're the story. Like, I don't want to become... I'm not like that. Like, I don't want to be an activist about it. Like, there's so many other things to be an activist about, but I don't have a problem with people doing it. But even back then, like, before things got mandated, they had, like, a suggestion. And I got basically banned by the security guard because I had, like, a napkin on my face, and that wasn't good enough. And we weren't at that level that we were saying all face coverings or whatever is mandated. So he was just like, well, you can't come here unless you have a mask on. And I was like, dude, like, okay, I won't come here again. Bye. I'll see you never. And he's like, no, you don't have to go. Well, no, I'm like, you just told me I can't be here.
At the beginning, they said we don't need masks. So that kind of goes against this whole idea that the masks were planned and, like, some sort of nefarious plan. I think it's like, no, you don't need them, and then they kind of like looked at the situation and said, well, this is something that can help reduce some spread, so we might as well do it. And,
my feeling on that, when you said that, or not feeling, but my research tells me that the reasoning that they gave for not recommending masks was the shortage. So they had to, at that point, whether they liked it or not, they had to get people not to do the mask thing. And then they saw the reaction when they asked for people to wear masks, and they were like, okay, we can use this to our advantage. These people behind the scenes, I don't know, scientific people, and like, you know, the people making the most money of the vaccines and everything, the big pharma people, all these people who are telling us what to do, Bill Gates people, like those kind of people were like, oh, okay, we're seeing in real time how people are reacting to this. And there was already, I don't want to get too much into this, but there's the Lockstep program, which was detailed in the 2010 document from Rockefeller Foundation, which is called Strategies for Something Future Technology thing. I don't know what it's called. But it's like scenarios for a brighter future. Is that bright future? That doesn't make sense. Let's see. I'm going to go to the actual thing. Scenarios for the future of technology and international development. And that is available on the Internet Archive, so archive.org, my favorite. And they have a scenario in there where there is a big pandemic in 2012, which would be 2 years later. So they wanted to do this earlier, I guess. And there was a flu, and it caused all these uprisings and whatever because of the authoritarian rule of all these different countries. And people were starting to get really frustrated with having to wear masks and the body temperature checks and all of this, and shutdowns all over the place. Like, all of this stuff is in this document. And they also did the tabletop exercise Event 201, which you probably heard of, which was put on by the World Economic Forum, which is doing a lot of weird stuff lately, talking about the Fourth Industrial Revolution with Klaus Schwab and the Great Reset. But they had, on October 18, 2019, they had a tabletop exercise put on by World Economic Forum at Johns Hopkins University in New York, New York. And it was also produced by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and was about a novel coronavirus coming from Brazil, going to China and everywhere else. And the Chinese CDC director was there too, George Gao. And they were talking about what they would do, like with the World Bank executives and everything, we're talking about what they would do in this situation. And it ended up like 60-something million people died. And this guy, Tom Inglesby, was talking, and he was like, oh, it's just 60-something million people. And everybody laughed with him because they're insane. But, you know, like, that's way worse than what we have right now. And they prepared for that. And they prepared for that in the Crimson Contagion exercise earlier that year, in October, same month.
So what's your point with all this? Are you saying that...
I'm saying that there was a lot of talk about masks beforehand being utilized in the situation that would occur.
Even the general public is even saying, hey, should we be wearing masks? It's not like you need some like nefarious like tabletop exercise or whatever to say like, well, if we have an airborne pathogen, maybe covering up our face is that a reasonable thing to try? Maybe, sure. It's like I think that's why that came about. And you know, I don't know if these, you know, you could certainly see it as these things are planning something that's going to be unleashed on the world. We can also see it as what are threats to the world that we can plan for and try to respond, you know, like sensibly have an action plan in place.
But in that way, like the DHS is the one who put on the Crimson Contagion exercise in October of 2019. And so this was the same administration. This is the Trump administration that should have had everything good to go in the event of this pandemic. So it's very interesting. And also Dark Winter, which they keep mentioning, like Joe Biden has mentioned it, and a couple other people have mentioned Dark Winter, which was the exercise from 2001, which precipitated the anthrax attacks and also was about anthrax and was put on by the same people behind the Event 201. So there have been so many exercises of this sort that it just doesn't stand to reason that they wouldn't be more prepared in the event of an actual pandemic. That this seems like it was planned in that they planned not to do it well, handling it well, and to put the blame on this president, which is Donald Trump, and put more fear out into the world and more division out into the world, and have people attacking each other, which is very helpful for the bottom line, which was to get more money. Like, that's what the billionaires have done, is gotten way more money during this pandemic than they've ever seen before, like in such a short amount of time, and then destroying small businesses and destroying the middle class, I believe. So there are advantages.
That has an end. That's not a good end game. It's like you need this whole system in order to support being a billionaire. And if you completely crush everything below you, then it's just going to bite you in the ass at some point, and everyone's going to revolt or worse.
Well, the thing is, they want to be the problem and the solution. So they create the problem. Right. Then they reap the benefits, and then they say, well, we're going to save you now because we're all you have, right? The government is all we have, so we need the stimulus package or whatever. Like, they're going to say, you know what, we screwed up, but, trust us this time because we're going to get you out of this, and we're all in this together and all this stuff. And that's literally what they've done. And then the Great Reset is about, like, the coming in of, of all of this technology, AI, stuff that's going to make our lives better and keep us from doing too much work and everything, and like automation. They're just going to have a new industrial revolution. Everybody's going to be happy in their little dystopia. And you won't be a billionaire, you won't be a millionaire, but you'll be happy and you'll be a nice little slave. So that's going to be like the new thing that they sell to everyone as freedom, as something like you can just, watch TV at this time and that time in these different ways, and everything's going to be easier that you're going to do online, and 5G and everything is going to be fast and all this stuff. Like, giving them all these distractions and everything and saying, you know what, you're going to be fine. And we're going to live through this. But then it's going to be a new era with the same rules, the same problems, but, in different ways. Like, there's going to be more drama, more trauma, more stress, and more people just losing their livelihoods. And that's going to make them more controlling over us in the end. That's going to give them more control if we allow... Okay, we're back. That was interesting timing on that.
Yeah.
Just cut me off. Gave me a warning. All right, government, gotcha. See, I'm right. All right. Yeah. On that note.
let's bring this back around to power that people can do and help. And
yeah. Less fear-mongering, more solutions, which is what this was about. Okay, so what can we do?
The fact that we're even talking about, like, worrying about all this stuff is fear-mongering. And it kind of spreading that. So what can we do? So we talked about some of the basics, and I'll just kind of recover them again. We talked about vitamin D3, K2 supplementation, zinc. As far as other supplements go, oregano oil supplements are good for most antivirals. I can't say specifically if they'll treat COVID, but they're just generally good if you have a viral infection. Nature has good answers to these things. We talked about sunlight, getting out, getting your vitamin D from the sun, getting your air and oxygenation, getting good circadian rhythm. We talked about getting good sleep, getting to bed at a good time. A couple other sleep strategies: sleeping in a dark room, having a cooler temperature at night, and we've all heard about blue light from our electronics. So
Mm-hmm.
turning off your electronics, having an hour or two to yourself to kind of unwind at night, or using blue blocking glasses. I like to have no electronics in my room at all, and I put my phone on airplane mode at night. I turn my Wi-Fi router off, like at the wall. I just flip a switch and it just turns off, because why should I be exposed to that all night when I'm not using it? So that all that stuff helps you sleep better. We talked about exercise, getting, just starting with walking, which is really great. You can also do, some yoga and stretching. There's so many programs online, so you can look into things like yoga and qigong and tai chi, just different stretching and movement things that you can follow along with. And then one thing I bought is called a rebounder. It's like one of these mini trampolines. And NASA says it's actually the single best exercise all around for humans. So you just basically bounce up and down on this trampoline. It's super fun. You can put like a nice little track on. You can buy one on Amazon or online, have it delivered. It's a little hard to put together. I was actually sore for 4 days from putting the thing together. It's it just uses all your muscles to hold the bungee cords over. But once I got it assembled, it's a really great way to exercise at home if you don't have access to to the gyms anymore right now. And we probably won't until I would probably guess next April, my guess. So
Crazy.
a couple of things so we talked a bit about social connection, but we didn't really go into it. But we really do need social connection. We need touch, and we need love and hugs. And even if you're putting yourself a little bit at risk, I think it's important to have 1 or 2 people in your life where you can get that from. So if you see a friend regularly, like taking the safer at home order or stay at home order so seriously to the point where you're so isolated, is going to cause other problems. Like, ultimately it'll cause mental illness. If you have to, if you can't see anyone, even just giving yourself a hug and just stroking your arms or whatever, or your face, and just being tender with yourself, I think is really powerful and useful, and people should do that. And obviously reaching out, over the phone or online and connecting. Like, I've done so many group things, Zoom things, and I call my mom on the phone all the time. And, occasionally I'll meet a small group of 2 or 3 people in person, and all those things have really helped me get through this time period. So those are some of the big tips I have just for overall health. And then obviously stress management is huge, because so many people are scared. Like, we're literally scared to breathe. I think I was listening to one of your other podcasts, and Betsy was talking about losing life, liberty, in the pursuit of happiness. This thing really, COVID has really threatened all those things.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fact that the whole thing with George Floyd also was like, I can't breathe. Like, the whole nation, the whole world actually cannot breathe right now.
And he was a COVID-related death, allegedly, so...
Oh, interesting.
It all comes back. All comes back around.
Positive things that have come from this, and I like to look at this as a spiritual awakening of the planet, and also a Mother Earth saying, hey, enough's enough. Like, literally, you guys have to stop trying to kill me.
Yeah.
And you have to, and the best way to get numbed out middle class and a numbed out general population that basically spends all their time trying to desensitize and distract themselves is to force them into a situation where they can't do anything. And so for the first 3 months, people really did some soul searching.
Mm-hmm.
And you could tell that there's a lot of personal growth, and a lot of people had a hard time with it because they just weren't used to shining the light of awareness back on themselves and doing the deep inner work. Unfortunately, it seems like that all got distracted away by like the political unrest and the presidential election, and then all the stuff like, oh, a vaccine's coming, so we don't have to do this work anymore. It's like, no, you still do. The greatest risk to national security, I always said, is if Netflix went out, or if we lost internet, because then people would really be in trouble.
And that's happened a few times. There have been some outages of certain websites, like off and on, and people have been very, very angry about it. Or they go straight to memes and they just memify the whole thing, and then they just assume it's going to come back. But what if it didn't? What if the grid wasn't as secure as you thought it was? And that's something that's been brought up before as well, and could be thing to deal with in the future with this new era that we're going into. How can you control people? Media.
You want to. So anyways, a couple other stress management things you've all heard. You should try meditation and try deep belly breathing exercises is really good. And other things, there's a lot of advanced topics. It's probably too advanced for today, but just ways to activate your parasympathetic nervous system and relax the body and relax the stress response that we're under 24 hours a day. And that's stuff I work with one-on-one with people. If anyone has interest in that, I can get much deeper on those topics. So the last topic, I don't know if this is too deep for day two, but I'll just mention it briefly, is just to clean up your environment and the toxins that you're exposed to every day. So we have, chemical toxins and also electromagnetic toxins. And then, fear is kind of a toxic thing as well. So I think that's probably a little more in line with the podcast theme.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looping back around to fear then, and how the media has, just used the fear to get viewers and worse, right?
Yeah.
This is something you're more aware of, but you could just tell it's just. I heard the statistic that 98% of news organizations are actually registered as entertainment companies. I think that should tell you all you need to know right there.
Yeah, exactly. And why we don't trust them. Like, I don't know what percentage it was that doesn't trust them that I read, but, it's not a lot. It's less than 50%, I believe. So, yeah, even over the years, it's become more infotainment than before. In the 90s, it was pretty bad, but, it got worse in the 2000s, and now it's, really to that, trash-ometer, it's on board with, it's on the same level as, Jersey Shore was, and, friggin' Kardashians, it's the same thing. Man. It's just different. It's only a little bit different. They just have degrees. They just have big, fancy degrees. But they still, yeah.
I was watching election night coverage with ABC, and just the tension they managed to create over nothing happening. It's like you're on the edge of your seat because something's happening, but nothing's happening. They're just watching the same numbers over and over and over, and saying the same things over and over and over with this really tense voice.
And their fancy graphics. They love the little graphics.
It's like football graphics,
It's like, what are we doing?
Well, yeah, and people are just sucked in by that. I'm allergic to all that stuff. I just turn it off immediately. Whenever I visit my parents and they have TVs on every room, I go around turning them off, and they go around turning them on. And no one's in the room watching it even.
It's crazy.
Oh my God. Yeah, the single best thing. Well, that's another thing. So actually, that'd probably be my second top recommendation. One is to not be afraid to get out, get some sunlight, some air, and get some vitamin D. And the second one is really to take to detox from the media, because it's not serving you in any way, shape, or form. And I don't even keep up with the news, because anything I need to know about, I find out about somehow. It gets through. But the rest is just noise, and you just shouldn't waste your time or your energy. Right?
Yeah, lately, even on, I am on one social media site, which I mentioned a million times, which is Twitter, which is a shithole website, as I claim in my bio. But I do get a lot of the notices, of what's happening or what they think I care about and everything in the news. And I'm like, I don't care about that, but okay. And then also, I just don't let it affect me. When I see these headlines that are clearly clickbait, trying to get as much rage as possible in the comments and whatnot, I don't give them the rage. I just say, okay, that's their headline. That's their article that they don't want me to read because they put a paywall. So they're just going to tell me this stuff, and I'm supposed to believe everything they say because they have some authority. Like LA Times is coming to mind because they're really annoying with that crap. But,
you have some simple news, and you can go New York Times, LA Times. It's like if I have to pay to just find out just simple headline news of the day.
I know. And stuff that I already know from KTLA or whatever the heck other, network there is. I mean, I already know. You're not going to tell me anything I don't know. You're going to give me an opinion about what is going on. I don't care about your opinion. How about that? Like, your opinion means nothing to me. I'm looking for news, not opinions. And that's what it is nowadays, is just opinions everywhere. No matter where you look, it's just everybody has an opinion. And they don't even have op-ed anymore. They just put their opinion in everything.
Well, the fact that, I was reading an article in The Atlantic, and it's so obvious that it's like a lefty, like a super lefty themed news outlet. I'm like, it's like not even thinly veiled. And then so like all these places, Fox News is always said to be conservative, right? It's like, so it's just people they're just finding the news outlet that tells them what they believe, and that's it.
Confirmation bias. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, confirmation bias. We all take our beliefs way too freaking seriously too.
Yeah.
And it's just like, if we all would just stop, believing things and start being and living and experiencing life, and focusing on what unites us and makes us feel good as humans, all this stuff that divides us is just the tiniest little, edge cases that really don't matter at all. It's just put it in a central stage just to, like you said, kind of stir everyone up. It doesn't matter. And people gravitate. I've always said that, I think a lot of the political stuff can be solved by pushing it down to the local level. People gravitate and live around people with similar values, and they can have certain laws that uphold those values. Like, you can have guns in Alabama, and that's fine. If you live in, San Francisco, you can get married to, someone of the same gender. That's fine. And the people there say, "Yay!" No one else cares because you live there because you're around those people already. So, it's also a lot of the issues. It's like, and that's why we're divided as countries, because we have two sets of values, and people live in areas that support those values, but they're insisted on the whole countries living with the same values, and that's outside the scope of what people are willing to do, because they're contradictory sometimes.
Yeah, or there's just a binary choice of you can be for this or against this, but sometimes there's people in the middle who just don't give a shit about whatever issue it is. There's other people, most people probably just don't care, that it doesn't really affect them. But they're hot button issues that are, put out there to divide people. But most of the people just don't even care about what it is that you're talking about. But you're just speaking to your audience, whatever side, and nobody else. And that's what a lot of people got upset about, being not represented at all. By Hollywood, for example, all these award shows. And I think a lot of people got, figured out that award shows are just bullshit. And they were like, well, all these Hollywood people are just, patting themselves on the back. Who cares? And then they're, telling us how to live on their little award show. And they don't know our lives, they're just, on this pedestal, and they think that they're the be-all, end-all. And that's what, would happen. And then the ratings would go down, and they'd be like, well, all right. They wouldn't really change anything, and they still have the award shows. They had award shows during the pandemic and everything. Come on. You're telling us not to go out and do this and that and the other, but you're going to have your little friends in your little, room with each other, packed in. And then you pretend to be, separated when it's, on camera or whatever. But, they're all, just crowded around each other otherwise, because that's human nature, to want to be around other people. And that's what they're trying to destroy with, in society, is our wanting to be around other people. They want us to avoid each other as much as possible.
I think human nature will not be denied, so I'm not worried, because at some point, nature always wins. It's we haven't learned anything yet. It's we're gonna learn that pretty soon. I have two questions for you that kind of came up tonight. We're talking about politics a bit. I somehow got on a political text chain. I keep getting, text messages about the election, all this stuff. I never signed up for it. I keep hitting stop, and it doesn't go away. Obviously, it keeps coming from different messages, and it seems like there's no way to literally stop them from spamming my phone. What do you think about that? And is there a way for me to actually get off all these lists?
I don't know, because there's so many third party people that, or companies, that they buy our information no matter where it is. Like from like the grocery store or whatever, they could get your information and then sell it to some political thing. Like, I don't know how I got on these lists, and I get like emails and I'm like, I had nothing to do with the Green Party, but okay. Like, maybe I like cared about them at one point, or the Democrats even more, less so. Like, I mean, Republican would be out of nowhere, but Democrat, I'm like, nah, I haven't been caring about the Democrats since 2016, but thank you. And then I get like messages, but I got message from somebody addressed to the person who had my original number, so I had to be like, well, she ain't here. So I get a lot of calls. I don't even know who they are, but different numbers every day. Like for last week or so, like I had like 6 people in one day calling me. I don't know who they were. They don't leave messages. They just have these phone numbers from wherever. Some just United States. And I'm like, that's weird. But like it all this spam is coming out. Like, I don't know why. I guess it's we have to live with it and then block people's numbers and stuff. I don't know. And it's really annoying, but that's where we live right now, because we can't really control where our information goes, because it goes to Google and all these other companies, and they just do what they want.
Number, you can't block like one number. It's like you have to block. They just keep changing numbers. So
exactly.
Hopefully it stops after the election's over, but a lot of them are Trump related, so they're like, we're still raising money to stop the stealing of the elections, and people are probably giving it money too.
Oh yeah, people give money to anybody. The grift is alive.
They're just going to take that money. I guess you don't know. I shouldn't say that, but who knows what it's going to be used for? But
a fool and their money are easily parted. That's what they say. So
yeah. Well, so let's wrap up on a positive note here again. And I think one message we can all take is that this time is kind of a gift in a way that we are limited in what we can do, but I've been using it 100% for like self-development and personal growth and like raise spirituality, and I've also been growing my businesses and trying to help as many people as possible. And I see a lot of people out there take one of two approaches. They do nothing and they watch TV and check out, and sometimes you have to do that just to deal with the trauma of it all. But at some point you can say, as you said, you're thinking about switching careers. It's like, this is a great opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to get the education I need, or I'm going to start something new, and just use this time for growing and even raising our awareness of what's really going on out there, so that we can see what's actionable, as opposed to just worrying about it all the time. What can we do, and are we willing to step up and be counted, with how we want to see our life shape up in the future. So.
And I think a lot of people are more aware that doesn't happen at the ballot box. Like, you have to be out there on your feet doing something that benefits the world. It's not going to happen by voting. Unfortunately, that is the case. Like, that should be apparent to anyone at this point, that it's not going to matter ultimately. You don't look like anything different than this other person. You have to make yourself known in various ways. And I think you can do that through like blogging or whatever. Like, as long as you're not like negatively impacting society, I think you can make a huge difference. And then maybe you get a YouTube channel and you or not YouTube channel, like BitChute or whatever the fudge, but like one of those places where you can like commune with other people of like mind, or wake people up to certain abuses that are happening. Like, there's so much going on in the world right now, Nigeria and Taiwan, friggin' China with the Uyghurs, and like there's so much to talk about that doesn't get talked about so much as in the media. Like, it's a COVID all the time, so it would be good to have more people reaching out to other people and saying, hey, we should look at this and what's happening here, and we should do something about it. And I think that's a good thing about the protests that have happened this year or whatever, all over the place, not just here, but like globally. There have been several protests that have done really well. And I think it's good that people are out in the streets and are caring about what their government is doing to them, or what rights are being taken away from them finally. Like, finally you're getting active and you're saying, I matter. And that's what it all comes down to, is that we all matter. We should make our voices known and not back down. That's what it's about. Like, just standing up for your own self.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
on that note, it was lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And yeah, I'll link to the website, Habitual Health. And that's it, right?
Yeah, that's all I have for today. It was great talking to you, and I've got some pretty interesting topics, but hopefully people can take away some positive messages. And,
yes. That's what it's all about. Positivity. Radiate that positivity. Don't be the negative force in the world. Be something that helps the world, not hurts it. That's what I think is very important.
I love it. Love it. I'm excited to see what's coming up here. Hopefully it'll be a new era of good stuff. The people have to contribute, right? So every person has to make a difference. So.
Yes. It matters more than ever what people say and what they do.
All right. Well, have a good evening, and thanks for chatting.
You too. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening.